Hi everybody, Cheryl and Lady coming to you from the Ladies Garden and Home, and today we're going to harvest some herbs and I'm going to share with you my 3 favorite ways to preserve the herbs. So I hope you join us. So I have probably about a dozen or so different types of herbs growing just even in these containers on my deck. They're a wonderful space saver. I really enjoyed being able to easily access them. But I've got basil, oregano, lemon balm, thyme, parsley, chives, more thyme, rosemary, and some oregano, catnip, and more thyme here. And then in the green stalk here I have some more basil, I've got some more catnip, I've got some sage, and I've got cilantro and some purple basil. So I have quite a bit of herbs growing and I absolutely love them. Frankly, I couldn't cook without them. Sometimes I come across a recipe in a book or online and there's no herbs added to the recipe and I'm like, how does it have flavor? So I generally harvest herbs one of 2 different ways depending on how the plant grows. The first, sort of like this parsley here, where the outer leaves are taller and the growth comes from the middle. You see these little leaves coming up through the middle. You just simply take the outer leaves first, and this will give these more air and room to grow. Other herbs that you would harvest this way are sage, again taken from the larger outer leaves. The plant will get bigger from the top, but also you see there's new growth here. I also do the same with dill and cilantro. Those are the kind of plants that grow with the larger leaves towards the outside, with the smaller leaves, the new growth coming from the center. Some plants grow by putting off double nodes under the top growth, like this basil, for example. So what I do when I harvest basil and a bunch of other different types of herbs is I cut them above where I see the 2 leaves growing. And what happens is this will then turn into 2 more shoots coming up. So that's how you get the plant so bushy. Other plants that grow this way, in addition to basil, include thyme, oregano, so if you were to take the top off here, all that will become new growth. Lemon balm too. See those tiny little leaves? And to keep the plant tidy, what I'll also do is take off some of the older leaves. And if they're not too brown, I go ahead and I dry these too. And this catnip as well. Although I am trying to leave some flowers. Now, if you're doing a lot at once, you're not going to want to sit here and pick them off like that. So it works just as well when you're trying to harvest a bunch at once to just take the snippers in and give it a haircut on top. Okay, when we come inside, the first thing we want to do is wash our herbs, just like you would your vegetables. So I put them directly into the salad spinner here. And then add a couple of handfuls of salt. And this is going to kill any buggies. And we'll just let that soak for about 15 minutes. Also, since these were in containers up on the deck, I'm not going to add vinegar to the water, which I normally would do if it was in the ground near where maybe some animals could get to them. And if you don't have a salad spinner, that's okay. Just, you want to dry them off on a paper towel. All right, I'm going to just separate these out. Many people hang dry their herbs. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I do that with lavender. The reason I don't do it with the herbs I'm going to be cooking with is because I have 3 cats and a dog that all shed terribly. And if I were to do that, I would have very, very fuzzy herbs. I hang my lavender in my closet. The animals don't go in my closet, and it makes my closet smell really, really good. But I can't fit all my herbs in my closet. So I'm going to share with you 3 simple methods that I find very quick and very easy, with the emphasis on being easy. So the first way I'm going to show you that I like to preserve herbs, and I find this method very easy and quick. It's also closest to when you use fresh herbs in your garden, is what I call the freezer cigar method. And what I do is I wrap them in some saran wrap and then put them in a nice Ziploc bag, and I keep them in the freezer. And I think what I'm going to do for this particular batch is I'm going to mix up an Italian blend that I use in my sauce. So it would be oregano, parsley, basil. So, you know, a handful that I would throw in. And what I do is I wrap it up really tight like this, like a cigar. Bring it up really tightly like this, keeps it from getting freezer burn. And then, you know, as the season goes on and I harvest more, I can just add to the bag. But you don't want to defrost it when you go to use it, because that'll make the leaves kind of funny. But if you drop it in completely frozen into your sauce or your soup, it really does taste like it came fresh right out of the garden. And then another tip for making sure that your vegetables, herbs, whatever you put in the freezer doesn't get freezer burn is when you go to seal it, what I do is I close it up as much as possible, kind of hold it closed where the straw is, and then it keeps the air out. Of course, I love to use fresh herbs in my cooking. I also really kind of end up going for the dried herbs more often. I think they're just more convenient. They're within arm's reach, and also you don't have to use as much, because once an herb is dried, the flavor becomes much more concentrated. So I tend to go for the dried herbs most of the time while I'm cooking. And one of the ways that I dry my herbs is simply in my toaster oven. I set the toaster oven to warm, which is the lowest temperature I have here, and then I set it for an hour. Now, mine only goes to an hour until it turns off, but I find that I like that because if I left them in too long, they might burn, and that's not what you want to do. You don't want to cook the herbs, you just want them to dry. And this is how it's going to look when it comes out of the oven. This was basil. You can also use parchment paper. It's going to look very dry and crispy. But be careful, because this to me does not feel like it is crispy enough. These are not dry enough for me. If you can hear, it sounds dry, but they don't fall apart. What you want, like this is starting to fall apart. That's what you want. That's how dry you want your herbs to be. So this is going to go back in the toaster oven for another couple of hours. Although that's not the quickest preservation method, it really doesn't take too much thought. You just throw it in the toaster oven. That's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. You could also use your main oven to do this. I don't like turning the gas on in the summer. It gets way too warm in the house. Also, it only goes down to 170 degrees, and I'm really not sure that's going to be cool enough for me to be able to just dry the herbs and not cook them. But certainly you can get a lot more done in the oven as opposed to the toaster oven. There are also dehydrators, which are quite expensive. I don't think they're economical for my use, but I'm going to tell you in a minute my favorite method, which is the most economical you could imagine. My third and most favorite way of preserving my herbs is putting them into paper bags. Then I usually put some of this dry silica pouches just to help the drying process along. Thyme and oregano. And car keys. Come with me. So yeah, I just basically keep them in paper bags in the backseat of my car all summer. The climate is right, because to dry correctly, herbs need darkness, air, which the paper bag provides them, and warmth, which certainly the car provides them in the summer. When the frost starts to come, I just bring them inside and I process them all together, and I'll show you what I do when I preserve them. Once they're nice and dry, crispy, and they're falling away from their stems very easily, you can go ahead and put them up. At this point is when I remove the stems. I find it easier this way. I just put them in some glass jars or spice jars. You can get these on Amazon. In fact, for most of the stuff that I use today, I just got them on Amazon, and I will link to you my links for those products. And then to ensure that they are really dry when I go ahead and put them up, I just throw one of these in, actually the smaller version, but the idea is to just make sure they're going to be nice and dry. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and share it if you would like with some friends. And please subscribe so we can share this wonderful gardening experience together. And from the Ladies Garden and Home, enjoy your gardening journey. Bye. Say goodbye, lady. Lady says goodbye already. Wow, this video took a long time. Can you please get out of my house so I can have my dinner? Thank you. Bye. Lady. Lady says goodbye.